So I'm back on my Myford ML7 again, and this is my rig for measuring the perpendicularity of the cross-slide movement to the spindle axis. It could be much more elaborate and a purposeful gadget made up here, but I am lazy and pragmatic, so I just chuck up a piece here in the chuck and bump it into reading the same here and here, meaning that if you zero the indicator now, that you can turn it around and repeat the measurement like so, and then knowing that you use a straight piece here, then this is a reference. And now I have so to speak, a narrow guide saddle here, which rides on the middle part here, and the short lip here, and that rides on the inner part of the front guide. If it was a rear guided saddle, it would ride on the rear of the rear here. In any case, it shall be zero, of course, but could be tilted a little bit so that it reads in this case harder on the inside here and then lesser here, because this would mean that this would be making a hollow or a dished out surface. The tool would be guided in a somewhat angle towards the middle. So you're seeking absolute perpendicularity, but could be allowed to go a little bit in and not the other way. That's a no-no. So in my case, it would mean that I would read here a little bit less than I do here. That would be allowable. So if I zero the indicator here and then move in again, now I go plus 1.5. The standard tool room spec 0 to plus 1 or 1.5, I think, on this. And now I have now shimmed it here, so I know by the amount of shim how much I should scrape off the opposite side to get it to match up afterwards. So now with that shim being X amount of hundreds of millimeter, I will try to scrape off X amount on this side, and I will leave the just the middle third part here hollow, which means that it cannot rock at least. And then we can adjust it like that. And I'm just using the gib on the front here, just snugged up here and here, so that I have pressure on the outer sides of this. I mean, almost like so, inwards. And here is the the saddle mounted in the vise. As it turns out, it is a bit skewed, so I have to correct that. And as I said, I shimmed up this with, let's say, I think it was 0.08 of a millimeter here. So this means that I should then, to correct that, scrape off the same amount here. So then we'll mark out here in at least 3 parts, namely I would leave that part alone. I will scrape that a little bit harder, and this also then hardest, so that it will be tilted a little bit down there that way to get it flat again to the same reading as if I had the shim there. But I will also hollow out the middle, so knowing how much I scrape, I know exactly how many cycles I will have to take. So I have made 2 step scraping cycles, and now I've gotten the arrow down to from 0 here to roughly 5.5 or 5 So 2 or 3 cycles more, I'm down to 0, because now I'm without the shim here. So I scraped on this side, step scraped on this side, to bring this so that the error will be within what is specified. I must say, however, that Myford have, at least the Myfords I have been into, have always been having a larger deviation from 0 here, so allowing for more, I say variations. I guess tool pressure on such a small machine, deflection I mean, is greater. So they've always, at least the ones I have been into, had something like 2 to 4 hundredths deviation from 0, so dished out. So if I bring this into 0, I'm afraid that, or -1, or, I mean just a little bit, I'm afraid really that this is a little bit too little, too small of a deviation on this machine. So I think I'll bring it down to 2, I guess, and then leave it with that. And for those of you that didn't follow my, say, thinking, wife tells me I'm not easy to understand, so therefore I can try to explain here again. I think this is a repeat from something I've said before or done before, but anyway, if this red here can depict the saddle from the top, and then, as you can see here, the gib in front, I mean this is the bedways here, front and rear, with the red saddle, and then the area to the rear here, they say this area here is free, there is no contact. It rides on the area here in front when it is the narrow guide. If it had been modified, the newer ones ride here on this, which is the wide guide saddle. However, the ML7s, they use this strip here, which is prone to wear faster than this one because it's shorter, of course. And anyway, and now this can be adjusted so and so. And as I did, I introduced a shim here, and then learned that when this was introduced by X amount, 800 I think it was, then I could read 0 on the dial here. When I traversed inwards from here to here, or here, middle. And then I adjusted that by scraping. This is the same strip here, but just moved like so, so we see it from the side. And so I had introduced a shim on the rear end here, which is here. And now I scrape down this and this area, so that what I really I'm doing, I'm just, instead of having it with the shim like so, I'm tilting it downwards again till I get the 0 reading. Or actually the spec says from 0.00 to 0.01.5, or let's say I would say 2 here, 2 hundredths. That means that when you face, when you turn, you will face it a little bit like so, at an angle, so that whatever you are trying to face off will become a little bit dished, like so, which is much better than if it is totally flat and you, because of tool pressure, loses a little bit on the inward and then produces a surface like so. This is not good, and it will never lie still. I mean, it will never lie flat. So I just find out how much with the shim, and then I scrape down and then test. And then of course I loosen the gib here and then tighten it just snug again when I need to with the gib screws here. And I also, seen from the top again, try to have two pads and then a little bit of relief in the middle, because here again the worst scenario would be that it rocked, that it was high in the middle, because then the saddle would rock back and forth as you turn this way or this way, and that is no good. So even though this takes a little bit away of the wear resistance, so to speak, it's better to have a hollowed out. At least we have learned that. Let's learn from the pro, from the professor. Anyway, that's logical also. So the truss pads here then are 0, 0, and then a little bit like, say, 1 to 100 so a millimeter low here in the middle. So that it wears out and then becomes at least better and better, and then eventually, of course, it hollows out. It wears until it gets so, I guess, because the fact that you move it, it'll wear. I've seen especially here on the rear. Myford always puts in a little bit more tilt than what is from spec. So I've seen up to 4 to 5 here, which is 2 thousandths. Is it 2 thousandths? Yes, 2 thousandths of an inch. So I mean, this is like say 1 thousandth then. So probably because this is a small machine, and then that the actual let's say tool pressure makes it deflect more than a more robust bigger machine. So, but this is my aim then, to put it like to turn perpendicular, so, but having this kind of inwards angle. I hope it was understandable.